Ladies and gentlemen, as Columbia Global Centers in Turkey, it is a pleasure to have Columbia alumni from Turkey and abroad, along with Columbia deans, professors, and administrators in Istanbul, together with our esteemed guests, and within several months of our inauguration. We thank the Columbia Association for this wonderful occasion. We have just a short video, a greeting video from Dr. Mehmet Öz, and then we'll be going on with our panel. If we could set that up, thank you very much.
A warm hello from New York to all of you celebrating with Columbia University in Istanbul. Now, I wish I could be there with you. It's exciting to imagine Columbia alumni, parents, and faculty from all over the world there together with Turkish alumni and guests exploring one of my favorite cities, where my parents live. Like the program that has brought you all together, Columbia's presence in Turkey is growing through the Columbia Alumni Association and the Columbia University Alumni Club of Turkey, and now through a new global center. Now, as a member of both the Columbia faculty and as a family of Turkish origins, I'm especially proud to see the university launch a global center in Istanbul. When this happened last November, I was thrilled. There were Turkish journalists and business leaders. Ipek Taha was now the interim director, and the center is going to help strengthen research and program partnerships in the region, help Columbia know more about Turkey, and help Turkey continue to grow. The Columbia connection with new students and their families and the alumni is growing stronger all the time. Columbia alumni are leaders in so many fields in Turkey, in education, in science, in engineering, and in government, architecture, the media, the arts. This network is becoming more and more important. So, to both Turkish alumni and guests from all of the other countries that are there, I want to thank you for being with Columbia in Istanbul. And I hope you have time to explore, inspire, and challenge each other, just as you did when you were on campus. I hope you have a chance to meet soon, whether along the Bosphorus or on the Hudson. And for now, let me just say, if I can say this in Turkish, hoş geldiniz, and have a wonderful evening and safe travels.
Well, thank you, Dr. Öz. I wish you were here with us. Welcome once again to our panel. I don't know how we're going to top that one, but we're going to try, at least to keep you entertained throughout the evening. Our panel is going to discuss Turkey's paths to the future. As you know, Turkey is a country with many paths and many nuances. It's an ancient country, as well as a very contemporary and active member of the world community. Tonight, we have 4 distinguished panelists who also have the added distinction of being Columbia graduates. We will be discussing their perspectives on Turkey's paths to the future as it relates to their own areas of expertise. I know we've been delayed, so I'm going to keep the bios shorter than their accomplishments, so bear with me. Our first panelist is Vuslat Doğan Sabancı, who is the president of the board of directors of Hürriyet newspaper and publishing company. She's a graduate of Bilkent University and Columbia's Graduate School of International and Public Affairs. She's an honorary board member of the Vienna-based International Press Institute and has served as its vice president until 2008. Welcome. Our second panelist is Emre Kurttepeli, who is the founder and chairman of the Mynet Group, Turkey's leading internet media with 26 million users. A Robert College and Columbia University Engineering School graduate, he has been the founder of or investor in more than 20 internet and technology companies in Turkey, mostly leaders in their categories, ranging from e-commerce to social network sites and mobile and gaming companies. Our third panelist is Ali Aslan, currently the host of the international talk show Quadriga on Deutsche Welle TV. Born in Turkey and raised in Germany, he has worked for leading television networks including NBC, CNN, and ABC. He has also served as the policy and media advisor to the federal government of Germany. Ali holds an undergraduate degree from Georgetown. He is also a graduate of the School of International and Public Affairs and the Graduate School of Journalism at Columbia University. Now we come to our last panelist, Nazlı Gönensay Akbaygil. After an undergraduate degree from Connecticut College, Nazlı received her Master of Architecture from Columbia University's Graduate School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation. She began her career at Eisman Architects in New York and went on to establish her own practice, 212 Architecture, first in New York and then in Istanbul. She leads a team of architects, designers, and craftsmen in architecture, interior, and product design. Ladies and gentlemen, please extend a warm round of applause for all our panelists, and our panel will start momentarily. Thank you. Our panel will explore Turkey's path to the future. It's a grand title. We're sitting here at this very beautiful spot on the Bosphorus, the strait that divides Europe and Asia. I would like you to pay a particular attention to this verb, divide. Or is it bring together? Is Turkey a synthesis of many cultures, values, or ways of life? Or is it more and more a country made up of divided enclaves? Luckily for us, we don't have to find solutions or answers to all of these very big questions, but we do have to keep that as a backdrop, that as Turkey becomes more integrated into the world economy and the international community, it is also more divided in some ways. If we're optimistic, we might label this as growing pains of democracy. If we're pessimistic, we can look at continued imprisonment of journalists and breaches of various freedoms to draw the conclusion that in fact there is no progress, it's business as usual. I would propose that Turkey is more complex than all these polarities, and that in the end, the journey of the country continues forward. Transitioning from a failing empire to a new republic had incredible challenges, and so do our continuing transitions. So with that backdrop, I just want to turn to our panelists to talk about their own experiences in their fields of expertise and how that relates to Turkey's path forward. I would like to start with Vuslat, Doğan, Sabancı. I know you have something afterwards, so I'd like to start with you, and you may leave earlier if needed. Basically, you have been involved with the Turkish media and also internationally at increasing levels of responsibility. And also, you and I share this link to women's issues. So I wanted to get from you this dual perspective, business and civil society.
Well, talking about Turkey's future, I'm quite certain that most of you, especially those that have come from abroad, feel this upbeat mood of Turkey's future. I mean, there is a consensus that Turkey looks to its future with confidence for two reasons. One, obviously, because of economy. Turkish economy is really doing very good in the recent years. Last year, we grew 8.5% and became the world's fastest growing second economy after China, surpassing all European economies. This is really a huge success. While in the international arena, also, Turkey has become a much more active player. That is also very obvious, especially with the Arab Spring. Turkey has become a role model, an inspiring role model for the region. There is, I think, also a consensus on this subject. Taking these into consideration, our government set 2023 agenda for Turkey. In 2023, we're going to celebrate the 100th anniversary of our republic. So that was a good excuse and a very politically smart way to set up an agenda. And the mega goal of Turkey is to become one of the 10 biggest economies of the world. Well, this means surpassing Italy, Spain, Canada, South Korea, Australia, and Mexico. It's quite visionary and challenging. Can we do it? I would full-heartedly say, yes, we can. But there's a small hesitation for this. There's a big hesitation actually for this. Turkey, when under this mega goal of becoming one of the 10 biggest economies, has some sub-goals, 20 or something. These vary from setting up bridges, third bridge to Istanbul, to transportation, airports, education, lowering unemployment, etc., etc. They are all, as I said, very visionary and very challenging goals. However, there is no goal set for narrowing the big gender gap we have between women and men in the society. And that is, for me, very disappointing. The reason is, I truly believe that without unleashing the woman potential in the economy, in politics, in social life, it is not possible to really achieve this goal. In education, just a few figures. In education, the gap between boys and girls in the elementary level is really narrow. It's almost insignificant. However, the gap really widens after secondary school and in university. In university, there's a huge gap between girls attending to universities and versus boys. Girls, majority of the girls tend to get married at an earlier age and not even contribute to the economic life. Economic life, talking about economic life workforce, 75% of women do not contribute to workforce. Our ratio is 26%, which is really 122nd country among 135 countries. So we are really at a very, very low level. In terms of parliament, politics, we have 14% representation in the Turkish parliament. That is also not very promising at all. So in parliament, we don't represent women much. In workforce, it's not there. Education, we lag behind. Domestic violence, which I will come in a little bit, is a major issue, like in many other countries, though. However, Turkish women has a huge potential. Just to give a small but significant example, in the globe, around the world, 5% of CEOs are only women. Only 5%. In Turkey, this number is 13%. So it's a huge number. Why? Because those women are the lucky ones that get the chance to go to education, motivation from the family, and belief in themselves that they can do it. So this is a have to be, I think. We have to unleash this potential. How can we do it? It's not an easy thing. It's not obviously going to be done over the night, but we should start by setting the agenda, the goal for 2023 to narrow this gap. So it should be like one of the 10 biggest economies. We should have this goal for the 100th anniversary of our republic. I think, talking about past, the reason why Turkey has a unique place in this region, while many of the other Islamic countries do not embrace modernity and economic growth like Turkey has, is because of this, how Turkish Republic at the beginning in its establishment put this huge role on the society that Turkish women should have equal rights. Then equal rights was voting rights. And we had it 10 years before France, 12 years before Spain, and the same, similar numbers with many other European countries. But we do not want to be proud of this and only talk about this anymore. We need other role models, other good examples that's coming out of Turkey. For this, political rhetoric is extremely important. setting political agenda is very important. I think the women NGOs are extremely important. They should work efficiently, but having a unity is the key thing. They should not compete to each other. We should not compete to each other. We should be unified under this one goal. The other thing is media's role. I find media's role is also very important in transforming social values, shaping the society in this sense. I will give two examples. One example is the company that I chair to, Hürr. 8 years ago, a woman was shot in hospital by her brothers when the two policemen were guarding the hospital room. And it was an honorary killing case that was done here in Istanbul. That's the first time we heard so much about this in Istanbul, because it was more of a case of the eastern part of Turkey. That day, I remember very clearly, we had a discussion meeting within Hürriyet and discussed how we can trigger on this issue and break this taboo. It was really a taboo within the society. And for a mass paper, for a leading paper like Hürriyet, not a niche one, even to bring this into, not to write about this, but to own this, to possess this as a corporation, was quite courageous. And we said, we'll go ahead. And we set the agenda that we will break this taboo. Hürriyet was courageous, but I think the whole media was very willing to embrace this. And today we did many, many things. It's a campaign that's been on for 8 years. We educated many civilians in little streets, in little buses. It's a very difficult subject. We educated with the government and without government, muftis, the religious people, policemen, lawyers, etc., etc. Apart from education, we first started to change our language. How do we cover stories of violence? Where do we put the blame on? Because it was usually put on women, whereas we changed the paradigm, etc., etc. Today, where did we come? I cannot say that the issue is solved, obviously, but Turkey came a long way. Last month, I am very happy to share with you that a very important law passed that is to preserve family and to put very important sanctions, punishments on domestic violence cases. So when we realized that domestic violence was, we got good results, we started going into other issues of closing this gender gap. One was to go and ask for equal representation in the parliament. From 7%, we doubled it to 14%. Is this encouraging or discouraging? I cannot judge, but at least we said we want equal representation. So it's another, we can say it, thing, which I think is important. This is Hürriyet case. I will give quickly another case where Turkey's media used its soft power to influence its region through TV series. Just like Hollywood years ago, Hollywood movies spread the American culture to around the globe. Turkey is currently spreading its culture in the region, Middle East and the Balkans. They are extremely important because they are the best, they've got the best ratings, they are the most loved series, etc., etc. Life really stops in these countries. I think it's now being exported, all TV series in total, more than a dozen countries. And really life stops when the TV series are on. In these series, woman has a role that is not the same in most of these countries. It's a more equal role. Women can stand up for their choices. They set up businesses. They go to work. Their husbands sometimes, even though this is fiction, set up the table for her, and they share it together. And they really are in the modern life, in all aspects of the modern life. And they're very popular. We have tourism also to Turkey just because of this. They come here, they get into appointments, they want to see the stars. and I think Kıvanç Tatlıtuğ, the most handsome blonde actor, is more welcomed, or as much as welcomed, as our Prime Minister Erdogan in most of these Arab countries. Yeah, so that's another influence of Turkish media in the region. That's why I think media has also a crucial role to play in this issue. I think I'm above my limits, in time limits.
You touched upon many important themes, and I want to lead quickly on to Emre, as you know we've been delayed and we have time afterwards for Q&A. Vuslat talked about this goal of 2023, and you're in business, you're an entrepreneur, you're a serial entrepreneur. You are now helping young companies to flourish in the internet and technology sectors. So I wanted to ask you, from a businessman, from another angle, how do you find Turkey's economic progress, and how does it relate to the internet, in addition to what you were going to say? Maybe start with this.
Okay. Thanks, Ipek. First, I'll start a little bit on the entrepreneurship side. I think one of the not misrepresented, underrepresented side of the Turkey is this young population, which is, I think, quite in major respects different than the previous generations, including all the panelists here. And sadly, because I mean, one of the major differences, I think, which has become apparent in the last couple of years, which is also becoming the economy booming and everything, this generation, which I'm talking is more around 20 to 25 to 30 years old, are much more educated. They are educated not only in Turkey, but outside Turkey. They are slowly coming into power. And given now there are lots of private institutions in Turkey and everything, they are much more globally integrated. And they also have, including the social media and the information, they are much integrated to the topics which we are talking about. I think there is a major impact we'll see, and I think it has started already with these people. And I think if Turkey will move to the stage where we're talking about 2023, I think that will be the scenario while these people create rather than us. So I think I honestly see my role more on a mentorship level, paving the way, opening up the way for these people to voice their opinions and shape the economy and the political scene in Turkey. I think that's how I, at this myself, position myself, see myself. To talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, which is a weird case in Turkey also, because we always say we are born as entrepreneurs, because I have a very close friend who actually lives in Latin America. I wouldn't name the country, but he was making a speech in one of the conferences in New York, and I was listening to him, and he would always start with this sentence. He would go, I live in a country where not the future is determined, unknown, but even the past is not determined. So it becomes on such a volatile environment. So from looking backwards, the generations we have, we've been through, from our fathers, ourselves, through a very volatile environment, given all these like political issues and everything. So I think in that sense, we always consider ourselves entrepreneurships. But I think there's a very unique quality in Turkey through entrepreneurship. I'll give you a very definite, interesting example from this global entrepreneur monitor. It's a globally done report each year, and it's called GAP, and which basically ranks over, I don't know, 200 countries, nearly worldwide, and it tells the typical characteristics of countries, like, you know, how people think about starting new businesses and everything. For example, and in the three major categories they ask people, there's big panels, it takes a year, whatever, is how they see opportunities, how they position themselves, and how do they want to go on with a new business. And if you take countries like Bangladesh or Pakistan, which is similar in that sense, people will always say, I mean, this from the recent stats, there are lots of countries in their opportunities in the country they live in, but for some reason, whatever it is, they don't see themselves equipped to start a successful business. So they have the fear of not doing it. And for example, another example is Japan and Korea, which is the exact opposite case, which most people believe that most corners are taken. So they would rather not start a new business because they think that it will become unsuccessful because you know, there's already existing businesses there. When you come to Turkey, there is a weird scenario, and this also even like got worse in the 2011 report, which came out a couple of weeks ago. It is very similar to US in the sense that people see lots of opportunities around, so they want to start new businesses, whatever it is. Yet, all these people believe that they'll make it, most likely they'll succeed in doing it. And thus, they do the business. In Turkey, the scenario is totally upside down. Most of the, like near around 80+ people, believe that they will not be successful, not educated enough, they are not cut for it. And funny enough, they start the business. And this statistic this report has been going on for a while. And it shows a typical dilemma. I mean, you can come up with all these like different scenarios from why, I mean, when you start asking the why question, why this is the case, why we do it knowing most of the time, most people believe that probably they won't be successful. Let that be funding, education. But personally, I think there's a big gap. I think that's why I'm a very full-hearted supporter of Global Center also. The education, they feel that they are not educated enough, equipped enough to make the business into a successful business. That's my belief, that's the main reason. I'm trying to personally pushing this education side, all this mentorship, entrepreneurship. Yet, while this is the case, I have been seeing a big change in the last 3-4 years, because this takes the whole population. When you look at the young generation, I'll give you specific examples from the internet side. I mean, there are a couple of like 2-3 companies who were set up 2-3 years, even like 2 years ago, most of them, which I was part of one of them. And these companies now created wealth over $1 billion, or employs around 2,000-3,000 people. And these people mostly all started by people who were educated well. And most of these people, like Columbia graduates, Ivy League, US, Europe, instead of choosing to stay in the US, working in a corporate environment, decided to come back to Turkey and start a new business. Because from their perspective, they had the confidence that they'll make it big in here. Because they were equipped, educated for it, they've worked in global companies, whatever. So when I look at them, actually, I see lots of potential. So I believe if Turkey can utilize this youth energy, channel it in a right way, I think there's so much add value that will be created. And these people who are coming back, I mean, I think it's a big plus for Turkey because, I mean, I had to come personally for family reasons because we had a family business. But probably if looking back 20 years ago, I mean, I was working in a great company then after I graduated, probably I would have never come back. And these people actually consciously making a decision, taking a risk, coming back here because the opportunity is there, they can make a difference here. And I think we should prosper this and push it forward in our ability, and we should attract these people to be part of the change what's happening right now. So that's that.
Thank you for that, Emre. You talked about the culture of entrepreneurship, and you also mentioned youth energy. And going to Ali Aslan, who brings both an insider and outsider perspective, basically Turkey being a youth energy country and you sitting in Germany where the outlook is quite different economically, demographically. How do you see Turkey? How do you see Turkey's path to the future, sitting where you're sitting?
Well, thank you, Ipek. First of all, let me tell you that being based in Germany, it's quite a relief for me, for once, not having to talk about the Euro crisis for a change. It's
good.
It's indeed, because that is indeed what most people, if not all people, are presently preoccupied with. You're right, of course. I am based in Berlin, the engine of the European Union, if you will. Don't let the Greeks hear that. But I suppose it's what you could call. I'm based in Berlin, actually, which, just on a side note, hosts the largest Turkish community outside of Turkey. So in a way, I'm living in Turkey. In a way, you know, it's. No, but your question is an important one. How is Turkey being viewed? And let me go back quickly to the Euro crisis, because I can tell you, ironically, one of the very few winners of the Euro crisis, aside from the hedge funds that are betting against the Euro all the time, is Turkey. Because the fact that so many European countries, Greece, Portugal, Spain, and so on and so forth, are having enormous economic challenges, to put it mildly, is making Turkey all of a sudden look very good. Vuslat already mentioned the numbers, 8.5% economic growth just last year. Those are figures that most European countries are dreaming about these days. And Turkey is set to become the 10th largest economy in the world. So I can say that Turkey's view has been changed in a very favorable manner due to the Euro crisis. Now you see even newspapers and press outlets who were initially critical towards Turkey's EU membership aspirations now warming up to the fact. In fact, some are saying only half-jokingly, let's kick Greece out and take Turkey in. Not sure that's the solution to the Euro crisis, frankly, but no. Again, I mean, the Euro crisis has definitely had a positive impact, as ludicrous as it may sound, has had a positive impact on the image of Turkey abroad, certainly in Europe. It's being much more being appreciated. Of course, we should also be honest here that Turkey already had its crash back in 2001. So many of the valuable lessons that Turkey learned and implemented, other European countries are now slowly coming to grips. I have personally, frankly, seen the changes also in the Turkish economy, because I grew up in Germany. And I do remember vividly a time when, you know, the Turks from Germany were coming to Turkey during the summer vacation, and they were being viewed with great deal of admiration a long time ago. But admittedly speaking, but those were the days. I remember they were coming with their cars and so on and so forth. Now I have to say regrettably that Turks in Germany are rather looked down upon by the Turks here in mainland Turkey. So I do see the changes quite vividly. Vuslat also mentioned another very important point, why Turkey's image abroad and in Europe is changed to the positive, and that's the Arab Spring, frankly, because many European countries are now coming to terms with the fact that all these Arab countries, may it be Tunisia, Libya, or Egypt, that democracy and freedom are two different things in that part of the world. These people were asking first and foremost for freedom, not necessarily for democracy. And you can see what I mean by that. You can see which parties are succeeding at the ballot box. These are mainly parties that have an Islamic theme to them. So many Europeans are frankly worried about where this region is headed. And they look towards Turkey for leadership. And not just Turkey. I look, you know, the very famous Time magazine cover now, of course, with the Turkish Prime Minister, Erdogan's way. Meaning Erdogan's way being the model that Islam and democracy are compatible. And this is certainly the hope that Europe has for the Arab Spring countries as well. You do see a very active and self-confident, or what is being noted in Europe is a very active and self-confident Turkish foreign policy, no doubt. Beyond the zero problems approach by Foreign Minister Davutoğlu, Germany itself is seeing that every time Erdogan is coming to Germany, they know it's a different tune now, because it used to be that Turkish prime ministers and foreign ministers would come to Germany or other European countries and, you know, to put it diplomatically, perhaps, you know, come across as a bit modest in their demands and also in their appearance. Not so much when Erdogan comes to Germany, I can tell you. I mean, already I've been to many conferences when he was in Germany, and he fills up these big rooms, these big stadiums in Germany, and the Germans already being somewhat paranoid and frantic. They're figuring the Turks are taking over again. You know, it is really mind-blowing to see with which self-confidence Turkey is asserting itself in the foreign policy arena. And demographics, Emre mentioned a very, by the way, I do consider myself still young, if that counts. But no, you're right, of course. Demographics also one aspect that Europe has tremendous problems with. Most European countries, particularly the country I live in, Germany, is rapidly aging. It has a rapidly aging society with a very low birth rate. And that cause for concern, of course. And they look towards Turkey, and Turkey is today the 17th most populous nation. And I've read that only 6% of the 75 million people are under the age of 65. This is an incredible number by European standards. Of course, Prime Minister Erdogan keeps pushing the people to have 3 kids at least. He keeps telling every married couple that crosses his way, have 3 kids. I think he just inflated it. He's now up to 5 kids. Okay, apparently he has a lot of for Azerbaijan.
Changes between.
So apparently he has more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Seems like he has more confidence in the virility of the Azeris than the Turks. Okay.
Different quotas.
I see. But, well, be that as it may, Turkey certainly has a very young population by European standards. But of course, let's not fool ourselves. Look at Spain, look at Greece, look at Portugal. Just having youth in and of itself is not an ambition, or is not an attainable goal, because it can backfire also. If you have a very young percentage of youth unemployment, if you can provide these young people with adequate jobs, then certainly that number that Europe is now looking with envy towards Turkey can certainly backfire. Germany's birth rate, just to give you a comparison, is 1.3. It's rather low. The only time actually we've seen a rise in the birth rate in Germany was during the World Cup 2006. You know, apparently with each German win, people got more excited, and you know, and but the view from Europe is also, frankly, and we are in this town today, is Istanbul. Many Europeans define Turkey by the city, and Istanbul, and I'm sure you notice when you go abroad yourself, has something you cannot buy. It's a coolness factor. It is every public relations company would die. I mean, Berlin, the city that I'm based in, also has that allure, certainly. Not sure it's all justified, but Istanbul certainly has the coolness factor. And you can see that the big, as trivial as it may sound, the big acts now are coming to Istanbul. Madonna is coming. They didn't used to come. They didn't used to come to by the way, music. Tonight, I think it's the Eurovision Song Contest, isn't it?
Yes. It's not as important.
It's not as important. And the
Yeah.
fact that you're all here shows you have impeccable taste in music. But I mean, look at what Istanbul is being used upon. Turkey is applying for Euro 2020. They're also applying, which I'm not sure is a prudent way, also for the Olympics 2020. Well, that's a different story. But many summits are being held, many international important summits are being held now in Istanbul. So Istanbul certainly, as somebody who's not based in Istanbul, as somebody who's based abroad, I can certainly, whenever whenever the city is being mentioned, you know, it's something that New York used to be, I'd say. But and with that I want to end. These are all positive things. The economy, the role in Turkey in foreign affairs, the demographics, Istanbul as a factor. But let's also not kid ourselves, because at the end of the day, there are also many issues when looked upon Turkey from abroad that are rather problematic. I mean, the issue of press freedom in Europe is something that causes a great deal of concern for Europeans. When they look towards news that journalists are being imprisoned for whatever reason, the European Union and European countries in general, that certainly raises eyebrows. Another thing, it's a constant theme that's been going on for many decades, but it still continues: minority rights. From where I'm sitting back in Europe, it is certainly not a single article about Turkey, even the ones Vuslat about the Turkish economy, cannot go by without making a reference to minority rights in Turkey, and that Turkey still has a long way to go. Certainly the question, and I'm sure you've all encountered it, is where is Turkey headed? I mean, all these numbers, but we're talking ideologically in a religious context. Where is the AKP taking Turkey? That is certainly something that's on the minds of many Europeans. Because they view Turkey, it's ironic, because the same European countries and same Europeans who look towards Turkey for being a model democracy, a Muslim democracy, for Arab Spring countries, for them, when it comes to the EU and EU membership, Turkey is too Muslim. You see, there is certainly a mixed signal that you're getting, and there's the view that where's Turkey headed? Is religion sort of taking a much more prominent role in everyday life in Turkey? That is certainly raising question marks, even 10 years after since the AKP has been in charge. So what I want to say is certainly a mixed picture, a great deal of admiration for Turkey, a much better image than ever, I'd like to say, at least in my current recollection, but certainly in brackets, the constant running themes that Turkey is being challenged by, such as minority rights and so on and so forth. Thank you.
I'm glad you mentioned Islamophobia as well, because that's an important component of European politics.
It is very important, particularly after 9/11. Germany has 4 million Muslims, and of those 4 million Muslims, 2.5 million are Turks. And Islamophobia, and you can see at the ballot box, you can see how far-rightist parties in Europe that run purely on an anti-Islamic platform are now making it into parliament. Holland, obviously, with Geert Wilders, is a very prominent example. You had Le Pen, Marie Le Pen, gaining a lot of votes in France, and so on and so forth. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Ipek. I mean, the Islamophobia, and Germany is no exemption, runs rampant in Europe, and that is certainly something that, as I said, when it comes to religion, there's a double standard. There's a double standard how Turkey is being viewed.
Thank you for that. You know, it's a very complex and different world out there. But you were so gung-ho on Turkey and Istanbul. So it's a good maybe transition into Nazlı, who's going to talk about more the architecture, the culture, and maybe a little bit about the art scene in Istanbul. So we'll see if she's going to challenge you on some of those fronts.
Well, thank you, Ipek. And I mean, thank you for really handing it right to me. That's a very good point. I will talk about Istanbul, but I'd like to start with the case of the architect first, to put it in context, and in a global context as well as Turkish context. Oh.
Put it up onto.
Okay. How's that? No? Okay. So.
And we have slides, so.
Yes. So anyway, I'll just start in the meantime. Architect is always directly linked to all levels of the society through their interdisciplinary role. So mood of the architect can be a reflection of the ecology of the society and its mechanisms. Okay, can I take over? Okay. So we can, based on this, deriving from this, we can make an assumption that happy architect could also mean a happy citizen. And what makes an architect happy? Also, three main points. An idea, to have a combination of an idea, a set of tools to elaborate, articulate, and develop the idea. And this could be all kinds of design or development tools, building materials could be part of that. And the execution of the idea, which is always an interesting, a difficult transition sometimes. So if we can get all of these in a nice balance, the architect can be very happy. Early 20th century architects were proud and gleaming with ideas and execution, portraying happy urban societies as forms of utopia. Those were good days. However, in early 21st century, what was once envisioned as a utopia has become the conundrum of the architect and the society. Art tools are outdated. Technology, I feel, by far has bypassed the making of architecture. Of course, there are crossovers and lots of new building technologies that involve as far as servicing the buildings, etc. But what I really mean by that is technology, Emre, maybe you will confirm that with me, has sprinted into a sort of a nanoform or flew up into a cloud in the sky. So technology has sort of abandoned architecture, so to speak, in the conventional sense. So, and today also I find that our ideas are somewhat repetitive and in memorized form, not necessarily relating to real problems and challenges of the megacities today. And Istanbul, as you can see from that image, is quite a megacity itself. So I feel we are not thinking ahead anymore. In fact, we are behind times. We are designing with the programming codes of the last century. And on top, our modus operandi is far too slow and entangled for us to be in any leadership position. This is really the general depiction of the architect in the wake of the 21st century, which is charming, I guess. It's not very charming, but anyways. So I would like to, on that high note, I would like to take a minute to show some of my work, and then I will continue to the case of Istanbul. So I will just quickly flip through. My work has a lot of references to the city of Istanbul and its prevailing traditions of craftsmanship. This is a warehouse building where an offices, it's a logistic warehouse where an offices had to be inserted into this mezzanine level. And the idea was to put a hybrid system, an all-in-one system that could be completely self-sufficient and suspended. The structural system will suspend all of the facilities of the office. So everything is, I'm sort of trying to defy gravity and alternative forms. So that was the idea. And this is the end result. We're approaching this system, office system, where we have these 6-meter-long desks that are suspended and actually quite rigid. We worked quite hard to get them rigid, but as you can see, there's a lot of steel there. So we really had to sort of go far out to make this idea work. I'll show you some more slides. Those are the corridor. So everything, the bookshelves, all of the power supply, electrical supply is coming from the ceiling. Everything is suspended. That's the making of it. So I'm always researching for something new, and with each project I explore a new dimension of some sort. This is another restaurant where we were making references to the wrought iron craftsmanship of Turkey, and the ceiling is suspended. You can't really see in the slide. This is X. A lot of us here tonight have been to X this week. I'm showing it because it has also special references to Istanbul. So the idea is here to sort of reflect the views and the skylines and the skyscraper of Istanbul, and maybe to mimic that with the ceiling, and also to bring the city into the space with reflecting surfaces, and make the space as seamless as possible, and let the city sort of walk through and pass through the deep corridors of the space. This is a more recent project. This is a mobile unit. That's a closed version. This could be transported anywhere. In fact, this is my office I'm developing right now, my new office. So I will be able to drop it anywhere I'd like. This is a construction site. If I have to be there for a while, I could be there. And I can flip down the side panel, put up my canopy, bring up my facade, and there I have, working hard with my team of contractors, architects, etc. So this could be also plopped in somewhere in the city. This is a bit of a crude slide, but it could, it's sort of a car park position, but it could be any place, or we could take it for fun in the weekend or on the beach anyway. Or if you see on the top right corner, I can just close it up and take it to New York, which I always like to do. It's always a dream. Anyway, so. I'm going to go back. So, I've talked about the architect and I've talked about my work, and not to say that I'm unhappy about my work, but in general, I would like to say the architect is actually unhappy. So, in this day and in Turkey and also perhaps globally. So what do? We need to reform our ways of thinking. I'm sorry, I came too early. We need to reform our ways of thinking and execution to better connect and to be fueled by new technologies. We need to invent new types of programs and functions that facilitate living in denser urban environments. We need to bring art into architecture as a means of research for new ideas and freer forms of expression. And most importantly, for inspiration, we need to be reconnected with the reality of our times, the condition of the megacity and its future challenges. So this is a global reality which is very, very much present in Istanbul at this day, in conjunction with very prominent real local challenges and realities. So we're getting to Istanbul now. Just a few nostalgic images of circa 1900, 100 years ago, in fact 110 years ago, we already have a very dense urban fabric, though it's at a much smaller scale. It is a true cosmopolitan city, a lot of activity that you still feel, it's already there. This is an image I found interesting. It's the central hall of this building, this palace. It was before it was burnt down, so I thought it would be significant to bring it for you to see how it is before and after renovation. When you go outside, you'll see the difference. It's not quite one-to-one renovation. Anyway, so this is the city in 1900, and this is what we have now, 110 years later. So, and most of this change has happened in the last 30 years, I could say. However, the last 5 years has been supersonic speed of change, and this is just a panoramic photograph I took last week from the Taksim area. So, I mean, this is actually telling a lot. I mean, in New York, I know that there has been a lot of changes in the city in the last 15 years. If you turn your head for a second, where there used to be a chain of stores, charming stores in a block of New York, could be gone, and a mega chain could be there. But in Istanbul, actually, you could turn your head for a second, and a whole building block will be gone. And this is the kind of view you would get. So it's an interesting moment. a split second in history of Istanbul's metamorphosis. This won't last very long, so those are kind of precious moments to look at. So this being the case, when we look at Istanbul's frenzy of physical change and series of urban regeneration and new projects, one would hope to see this movement as a precious opportunity for developing these new ideas and tools and executing them as we go. And if we are already doing this, then I will answer Ipek's question that yes, we are producing groundbreaking work in Istanbul. But if we're simply erecting beautiful structures with great visual appeal that has been already visited and tested around the world, then we're simply building a pretty box, a euphoria in a way, and it's not the architecture of the times. So what are these realities that we have to deal with today? I will mention a couple of them. There's a lot that has to be talked about. I may be leaving some out, but I just wanted to go over some of the significant ones in Istanbul, which is the first element is the people. Most importantly, I wanted to, oops. Oh, anyway, I lost that image. It was a film, it was a movie. I wanted to play the movie to really feel it better. So people are the most important elements of the city. No people, no city, and soon a lot more people in the city. So how can we make cities user-friendly? And quality of life is really what makes a citizen happy. So how do we provide that quality of life? And as you can see in these images, in Istanbul, the quality of life can be really discussed. It's you know, we have the glam and the glitter and all this euphoria and this wonderful, cool place, Istanbul. But there's also these very real issues that has to be resolved. The other thing is collaboration. So I think today the most ideal form of design is through collaborative work, where all possible parties, industries come together, from governments to even local metal workers. I mean, all levels. An architect is in the middle of that. So the work that's produced is with the best of the specialty knowledge and efficiency, and it should be with a democratic form of collaboration, not from top to down, thus optimizing long-term economic ramifications of the processes. This is really important. I mean, it returns directly to resource economy to do an efficient work at one go instead of, in other words, olmadı abi, hadi yıkıp bir daha yapalım. Which translate as, bro, we got it wrong, so let's try it again. Let's break it down and let's rebuild it. This is really a very common phenomena in Turkey, and so we love trial errors. This we have to eliminate to be more efficient and smart about things. And so as a global mega city, Istanbul, with seemingly good economic resources, there is no valid reason why we should not, I'm sorry, I skipped two things: environment and integrity, long-term durability of the buildings, earthquake, and infrastructure and transportation. These are the other important things. You know, if we are building so many buildings, it's wonderful, but are we really are we forgetting about the infrastructure? And if we're not, are we planning long-term enough? Is it an intelligent enough infrastructure to hold up this growth? So I'm going back. So now as a global city with seemingly good economic resources, there's no valid reason why we should not at least be attempting at all of these issues to resolve them and to make them work. If we're doing that, then I can proudly and confidently say that Istanbul is a groundbreaking global city in its rapid emergence of over thousands of hills of the city. Really, it's just vast. Because after all, if we are referenced by the most humbling architectural excellence of the world, that we are safeguarding in our backyard, a megacity of almost 20 million with hundreds of years of leadership of design and culture should be producing no less than that. So I'd like to say one final word, that this city, like any other, but with funkier characters, is like a live reality show. It's a laboratory. And I'm thrilled to say that Mark Wigley, the Dean of the Architecture School, who's here tonight, is landing GSAP's Architecture School's Studio X in Istanbul for some serious research. And I'm very excited to be collaborating with him on this exciting project. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all our panelists, and thank you to all of you for your patience. I would love to question among ourselves, but I think we should give the floor for a Q&A with the audience for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to be closing with George Van Amsen. Thank you. Gentleman in the back, please.
My name is Kerim Mukaddam. I'm a rising sophomore in the engineering school. Ali Bey, in your speech, you mentioned Erdogan's cover on the cover of Time magazine, and you said that this somehow showed that it showed that Islam and democracy can work together, and this could be an example for many of the Arab Spring countries. Well, I see it as an unfortunate fact that Islam and democracy affect each other, since in my ideal world, I guess, they would have nothing to do with each other, because not everyone under the same political system could possibly share the same religious beliefs. Well, my question for the panel is, what do you think is the right course of action? Should we embrace the relationship that religion and politics share, or should we try and push them apart?
Could you channel it to one panelist, please, in the interest of time?
Then I would have to channel it to
Yeah.
I think it's... no, I mean, to avoid any misunderstandings, it wasn't my opinion. I was saying the piece in Time magazine about Erdogan's way with the cover suggested and lauded, if you will, praised Erdogan for being able, if you will, to balance, or rather to show that Islam and democracy are compatible. I'm just, without giving you my personal opinion, I will tell you the view from abroad, at least from Europe. And that is indeed what Europe is looking towards Turkey now, for leadership in this region. And when I say in this region, I mean the Arab Spring, the MENA region. I don't, you know, we're not talking about Europe, obviously, per se. The fact that religion and democracy, if you will, or religious parties with a religious theme have always been in existence, even in Germany. Germany right now is being ruled by Angela Merkel, who's the head of the Christian Democratic Union. So the Christian Democratic Union, and also other parties within Europe, you can see there's no contradiction, it's not being questioned. In the case of Islam, however, in the view abroad, that is certainly something that preoccupies the minds of many Europeans. And for them, the jury is still out, but they're very much looking towards Turkey to take that role. And it is my understanding, and from my observation and my conversations with people, that Turkey is more than willing to take on that role. They're very eager to take on that geopolitical role of leading the pack. You see, one thing that should be noted, I think, is Europe right now has, aside from Turkey, has Iran very much on its mind. And they are looking towards this unspoken duel, if you will, between Turkey and Iran. Which model is going to be applicable and the role model, if you will, for the Muslim world. And it doesn't take a genius to guess that Europe is very much hoping for the Turkish model to be successful in that regard. Because make no mistake about it, behind the scenes there's certainly a rivalry between Turkey and Iran going on as we speak. Even though in the diplomatic arena certainly a different picture is being painted. But the question, you know, the fact that Time magazine and other publications and Europeans feel even compelled to praise Erdogan in the regard of and the AKP of being an example of being a party that has successfully merged, if you will, religion and democracy, shows you the thinking and the suspicions and the fears that do exist abroad.
Don't forget that Ali is as he mentioned, he's mentioning the view from the outside. Living in Turkey, we are much more divided and much more nuanced in our feelings about this matter. So
absolutely,
I understand actually both points of view.
Can I make a
yes,
comment?
please.
I appreciate for the question. I think it's a very good question because we trap ourselves in this Muslim and democracy, whereas I think that we should bring in the picture free speech and gender equality. These are the two most important things that we are now talking when we say religion. Let's look at East. What are the two problems that are keeping the countries backwards? There is no freedom of speech. There is no equal representation in the politics, society, everywhere. There's women don't have enough equal. So I think these are the two, and human rights, of course, but that's, I think, regardless of religion, that's everywhere solution for problems. So even also in EU, these should be the three cases that we should keep track of and talk about.
Thank you for that. And as you can see, more women on the panel. Any other questions, please? The gentleman in the front, please.
I'm Richard Hall, college and a law school. I'm just curious to know whether any of the panelists think that the new Constitution will make progress on freedom of speech and extensive pretrial incarceration. So will those issues be dealt with, do you think, in the upcoming Constitution?
Free speech is not an item that's being discussed in the Constitution. I don't expect any improvement on that in the Constitution. I mean, it's an ideal like the American Constitution to have it in the Constitution, but it's not an subject of discussion currently.
What about gender equality?
On gender equality, there are some issues, but I don't know how much they're going to be in the. It's all very gray.
What about the pre-charge and pre-trial detention in the criminal system? Is that going to be dealt with in any way in the Constitution?
It's really I cannot give a concrete answer. All Constitution, I don't know.
If there's anyone in the audience who'd like to make a comment on the
sure.
Constitution, who's an expert on the
from
topic.
CNN Turk. As far as I have covered the negotiation process so far in the Parliament, they haven't dealt with the criminal code or that particular article that you're referring to. They're still stuck in the three articles in the definition of citizenship thing that is locking them up and probably going to keep them busy for a couple of weeks too.
But just to be on the safe side, we're not being incarcerated after this panel.
Cross your fingers.
Okay, I have a flight to catch. This, right. Good, thanks.
Next question, please. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Janine Mitchell. I'm a 2007 SEPA graduate and a former researcher at the Columbia University Center for Energy. And my question is for Nazlı Hanım. I very much enjoyed your presentation, and I think this supersonic speed of change that we're seeing in Istanbul as well as elsewhere in Turkey is very much a part of this Kentsel Dönüşüm project, this urban transformation project. And you noted that people are the most important element of the city, and that any development in urban planning and architecture should be done democratically. And I wanted to get your views on this current project and whether you think that the current program of urban transformation is opening up more space for individuals like yourself that have a vision for the city that reflects both its past as well as a future which is for the people. Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, I have tried to talk about some of those. I think the user-friendliness of the city would be very important. And what's happening right now, as far as we know, in the very central parts, these buildings that are being torn down, the people who are now living in them are not such socially, economically, they're low-income economic group of people, and they're mostly they rent, and they're being relocated. from the neighborhood that they have been living for so long in the center of the city, where they have all of the amenities and all of the services and all of the sort of their culture and habits embedded. And now they're being transported to a sort of a satellite, new high-rise complex, social housing. And there's not many, and these people don't want to go, but they don't really have a choice. They're being completely scraped out of their environment, and this is a real problem. And this is happening not only in the center, Taksim, in that area, but it's also happening in the historic part of the city, the Sulukule and Kağıthane. There's many areas where squatter living areas are being completely wiped. I think this is a big problem, and the infrastructure is really not well thought out, I think. I mean, I was asking as a question, but sort of, I want people to interpret that. I don't want to really make clear-cut statements, but you got it out of me. So, I mean, it's really not well thought out. And we really have to, there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of layers to be sort of peeled, and this collaboration, and to open up the lines of communication, and transparency is very important. There's not much transparency, so we don't really know what's happening with these projects. And those who want access cannot really get access, so it's not open to discussion, really, and that's a bit of a problem.
Thank you for that. I think we are now in time for closing, so I'd like to invite George to the podium. George, as some of you might know, is the chair of the Columbia Alumni Association, and he has also served previously as a trustee of the university for 12 years.
So thank you, Ipek, and thank you everyone for attending this extraordinary panel, and many of us participating in just a wonderful, robust series of days, taking in the culture, the air, the spirit of Istanbul and Turkey. And we are just delighted we're here, and thank you all for being here. Thank you, Ipek, for your leadership of the Global Center and for this spectacular panel. I have the great privilege of being chair of the Columbia Alumni Association and a trustee emeritus, and it's my great honor to participate in events like this, mainly in the United States, but this has been truly, truly extraordinary. And I want to give a few words of thanks to, again, to Ipek and this wonderful panel, to our guests, to alumni of other schools. Here today, you've learned about Istanbul, about Turkey, about Colombia's role in helping Istanbul and Turkey, Turkey's role in the future, Istanbul as an eternal global city. I think you've also learned of President Bollinger having joined with faculty and local supporters under Ipek's leadership to open a Columbia Global Center here in Istanbul. And tonight's panel is just a reflection of that type of commitment and the drive and determination of 310,000 living alumni of Columbia University. I want to thank Dr. Oz in absentia for his presentation. I want to thank the professional staff, Eileen Markey-Halleck and her team. I want to pay special attention to İlknur Aslan, the president of the Istanbul Club of Columbia. Thank you so much. And I have some more thanks, if you'll just bear with me. And I'd like each of our senior representatives, our deans, Dean Nick Dirks, Executive Vice President of Arts and Sciences. Nick, please raise your hand. Stand up. Nick. Dean Mark Wigley of Architecture. Linda Freed, Dean of the Mailman School of Public Health. Fred Van Sickle, Executive VP for Development and Alumni Relations. Dean Catherine Yatrakis of the college. Is Catherine here? Dean Kevin Schollenberger of the college. There are current students here. Current students, please raise your hands. This is the present genius of Columbia. They've just raised their hands. The future genius of Columbia are the newly admitted students that had an orientation. Please stand up if you're here. You'll be students for a few years, and then you'll belong to me. I'd like to also ask the alumni club leaders, the global leaders from Europe and the Mideast, obviously Turkey, please, club leaders, stand up and be recognized. So in closing, let me just say this in no uncertain terms. Let this panel tonight assure you of the brightness of the future of Istanbul, of Turkey, and of Columbia University globally. Please join me on my palace terrace for drinks, and thank you very, very much.